Evening Focus.
Hello,
I'm
thank you for having me.
so pleased you could be here. How are you today? You all right?
Good, thank you. Yes.
Good, good. Because I know obviously you're very busy because of obviously what Stop Loan Sharks does. But um, just before we get into what kind of work you guys do, quite alarming that I saw that over 1 million people are borrowing from an illegal moneylender. I mean, that's scary, isn't it?
It's a big
It's
number. It's a big number. So it's 2% of the population of England is what they
wow,
reckon. So if you think about it, most people know 100 people at least, and that would mean two of those 100 people, statistically speaking, would be loan shark victims.
wow. I mean, it's quite scary to think that, to be honest. I mean, even one, let alone two out of 100 is just wow. So that brings us on to obviously what Stop Loan Sharks does in terms of an organization. So just for those who aren't familiar, just briefly explain obviously what that is that you guys do.
Sure. So we have been around for just over 20 years.
Mhm.
We are a trading standards service. And primarily, it's about locking up the bad guys. So we are a criminal enforcement team. We have the power to investigate and arrest loan sharks and then take them through the courts, and also look at proceeds of crime. So can we take away their shiny things as well as prosecuting them where we can? But alongside that, we do a lot of people work. So we support the people that have borrowed from loan sharks, whether or not they want to give us a statement and become a witness just because they've been affected, because it can have a massive impact on people's well-being, on their finances, but also on their mental health. And alongside that, we do an awful lot of awareness raising, trying to get people to know we exist, because that's a tricky thing in and of itself, but also to
Absolutely.
try and raise awareness that maybe loan sharks are out there, because people don't always believe that that's true in 2025, but also that, the help and support is available. But if you haven't fallen into the grasp of a loan shark, maybe some warning signs, things to look out for, a bit of buyer beware advice in terms of stopping people going down that road.
Absolutely. I'm just interested in, picking up on when you said you actually have the power to arrest as well, which is quite incredible. Obviously, being part of trading standards service, obviously that's where that power will come from. But what, on average, how long will it take you to kind of complete an investigation? Do you think? I mean, I'm sure it's quite because obviously you have to have the clear evidence as well and everything like that. But you know,
It
how?
varies, is the honest answer. So,
Yeah.
um, we get information in a number of ways. People ring our
Mhm.
hotline, or we might get it through third party organisations such as Debt Advice, or things like credit unions, housing officers, even the police. It
Mhm.
depends what that information is when we get it as to how long it takes us to investigate. So sometimes we get what we call a gold job, which would be with banking evidence, with someone willing to tell their story and go on the record, with police evidence from previous investigations, with all sorts of different things stacking up. They are gold dust, literally. So we
Mm.
don't get very many of those, and a lot of the time it's about building up a picture. So sometimes people will talk to us anonymously, and then we've got to look at other ways of corroborating that information. Sometimes they'll talk to us and then they'll come back in 6 months, or they'll come back 3 months later, because sometimes people think they can get themselves out of the situation, and it takes a little bit of time to realize that they need a bit of help. And then what we will do is look to get a warrant to search the loan shark's property, looking for things like cash, records, mobile phones, computers, things that shouldn't be there, like a big pile of passports that belong to other people, and things
Wow.
like that. Looking for evidence, then to charge, and then to take it through the courts. So we've had turnaround of intelligence coming in and warrants being done within 2 or 3 weeks. The average is probably closer to months, and we've had some that have
Yeah.
taken years, just because the reluctance of people to talk to us, it's taken longer to build that evidence picture.
Absolutely, because I'm sure it's like any kind of investigation. Certainly, whenever there's something where an arrest could happen or a prosecution could happen, you're going to get people that are going to be reluctant to talk and be like, well, I'm going to protect so and so and whatnot. And that's a culture, isn't it? I suppose with anything like that.
Absolutely. Thou
So,
shalt not grass. We get that quite a lot.
yeah,
The idea that no matter what somebody does to you, you don't tell people about it. And I think that's part of the problem sometimes, because we always say to people, it's like being burgled. You're the
yeah,
victim of a crime here. So if your car was nicked from outside your house, you would tell someone about it. You'd report it to the
absolutely.
police. So it's no different. You are the victim of a crime, and it is a hard one sometimes for people to grasp, and that's why I think sometimes it takes a bit of time.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things that I think we're starting to see as a university, certainly working as a student money advisor, is the amount of, I mean, it tends to be international students, to be honest. And I think that's obviously covered on obviously in the guidance that you give out on your website, and I do recommend people watching go and have a look at the website. There are some fantastic resources that you can access there, and also the YouTube channel, because that's also got some lovely videos. But it is a big thing, with money laundering. People getting told, "Oh, give us this, and we'll give you some money back," and not understanding that that's a crime in itself, doing that. And we have a specific fraud officer within because I work for University of Salford in the daytime, and we have a specific fraud officer. Shout out to Carla, and she does a lot of the work for the university in terms of educating, even within our own kind of community, our own Salford community, because it's more important than ever. The current climate, opportunists and kind of criminality is on the, well, I don't have any statistics to back it up, but it does seem to be a more common thing that's becoming more prevalent in terms of the queries that certainly we get coming in. Scams as well being a thing. Obviously, working with Scam Safe with the BBC recently, it's a big thing, isn't it, at the minute? So, what obviously is the best advice for students, that certainly as a student money advisor, that we should be giving, in terms of that? Do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting statistics we've got is that over half the people we supported last year thought the loan shark was their friend when they took the loan out. And it's really hard because we go around saying, don't use loan sharks. And half our target market would say, I'm not. I borrowed off my mate. And they haven't realised that actually this isn't their mate, because their mate is lending 20, 30 people money and charging them all double bubble, where you pay back twice what you've borrowed, and has all of their passports, which we see with international students as well. And they keep the passports, and then they control whether you've got access to be able to get home if you need to, and things like that. And because of that, I think that's what's hard sometimes. That it's a horrible message to say, be wary of people, but unfortunately, be wary of people. It's one thing borrowing £50 from someone who you grew up with, you lived next door to when you were at home. That you're going to be bridesmaid at each other's wedding, and you know them inside out. That's fine. If it's someone you've only just met and you're not quite sure what their surname is or what they're studying, or where they're from, or other details, why would they lend you money? Why would they take that risk? Because it is a risk. There's a risk that you don't repay it, and then what happens next? So it is just a bit of buyer beware, I think, for us, in terms of assessing whether this person really is your friend or whether there could be something a bit nefarious going on.
Absolutely. I mean, it is just really quite scary, because obviously you don't want to get into the hypervigilance necessarily of don't trust anybody, but you do still have to have that vigilance in life. It's a life skill, isn't it, really? That
it is. It is, and unfortunately, people don't walk around with a big placard on saying I'm a loan shark. It's one of the stats that tends to surprise people. 1 in 5 of the people we arrested last year was female. And people tend to think of loan sharks as kind of Phil Mitchell, the bald head and the Cockney accent and the baseball bat, whereas actually we've arrested people in the 70s. We've arrested people in the late teens. It can literally be anybody. And that, I think, sometimes is part of the problem. The media portray loan sharks in a certain way. Even the soap operas portray loan sharks in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so people think that this girl who they met on their course, who's offering to help them out because she's got a bit more money than them, is doing them a favour, where in reality she might not be.
Wow. Yeah, of course. I mean, in my head as well, I've also literally got Sid the Loan Shark, your mascot, as well. Yeah, just to be clear, I will put a picture of him now, but just to be clear, not an actual loan shark, just a shark.
Not an actual loan shark.
Pretending to be a loan shark.
Yes.
He's
had some adventures as Sid. We've now got 12 Sids because they are in that much demand. I was once a Sid on Grimsby Town football pitch. And while saving a penalty before the game during the warm-up, the head fell off. And there was this complete silence across Grimsby Town football. And then this one really loud voice went, "It's a woman!" So that's one of my highlights of working here for 20 years. I was asked by a child in Cheshire, Northwich in Cheshire, in a shopping centre, doing like a big awareness raising day about money matters in Northwich. And this kid came up to me and said, "Why are you dressed as a frog?" You need to do biology, child. It's clearly not a frog.
Not a frog.
Sid's had some adventures.
That's incredible. I know we've got Sid potentially coming to our National Student Money Week as part of our Survive and Thrive theme that we've got going on, is promoting, obviously building that financial resilience. So, with that in mind, how can I mean, obviously we've probably touched upon this a little bit, but in terms of recognizing those signs that perhaps someone is a victim, I mean, we get a lot of student money advisors, we get a lot of students that will come to us in financial hardship, and they'll obviously will have sight of their bank statements and things like that. So we'll see certain patterns there, but it's about how do we recognize, do you think, in terms of if someone is falling victim?
So the biggest thing for us is a loan without paperwork, because sometimes as well, some people think they've borrowed from a friend. Excuse me. Some people think they've borrowed from a genuine company at the same time. Yeah. So, a loan without paperwork would be a big red flag as far as we were concerned. I think in terms of the borrowing, we know that people paying back through bank transfer is on the rise. So over 50% of the people we helped last year were paying on bank transfer. And actually that's quite easy to spot, because it's a lump sum going one way, and then lots of repayments going back for more than the original amount. Because people put money into people's accounts, don't they? I remember when I was looking if my mum and dad paid my rent, so that money would come into my bank account. I also had a job, and that came into my bank account, but I didn't pay either of those people back. I wasn't sending money the other way. So it's that thing of, say, £200 coming in, and then 4 payments of £100 going out. That's not to a business name. It's not to, Cath Loans Limited even. It's to a personal bank account. Perhaps with a transaction reference of my name, or loan, owed, borrow, something like that, to sort of flag that up with the individual as well. And that would be a big one. But I think it's asking the right question at the right time. We will have people who will insist they borrowed from a friend, even when we're knocking on the door saying we've arrested someone. And they'll be like, no, he's my mate. And you sit down with them and you say, right, from the records we've got, you've paid back £7,000 on a £700 loan. No, I can't. And then they suddenly realise this isn't their mate. So I think it's about saying, do you know how much you owe? Are you charging you interest? The Welsh illegal money lending team, they always say, are you scared of anyone you owe money to? And I think if you're going to ask one question, that's a really good question to ask.
That's a good question.
So, and it just sort of opens up that conversation. And the answer might be, my dad, because he's going to kill me because I've gone over budget and things like that.
Or student finance.
Absolutely, absolutely. But fundamentally, it might just start that conversation. But I think it is just bearing it in mind, as money advisors, 2% of the people you're seeing, probably higher, because they're people who are seeking advice, are going to be loan shark victims in all probability. So it's just having it in mind in the same way that you would debt to a gas company, electric company, TV license or whatever else, and just adding it to that list of questions that you ask.
Absolutely. I think that's where one of the things I do is standard practice anyway, when looking through bank statements as part of a hardship fund application, is you will always see those regular, and admittedly it's mostly with international students, but you do get some home students as well that are basically lending money between mates and things like that. And 9 times out of 10 you do see that or even 9.9 times out of 10 you do see like 50 quid going in, 50 quid going out, and you can kind of match it up, and and there's no kind of suspicion there. But sometimes you will see that 50 quid going in, then a little bit payback, and then you query to the student why you're making those regular payments, because from a hardship point of view, it could be child maintenance payments, or it could be outside of obviously all the different legal things that people can do with child maintenance payments. It could be something completely innocent, could just be, oh yeah, I just give them something towards the food shop, and I've not paid that 50 quid back yet. But this is the thing, there tends to be a certain defensiveness that can come from the student when you ask that question, like, why are you delving into my bank statements? That's not the purpose of this. And it's like, well, I'm asking you because you could be a victim of something here. There could be something based on what you just said there as well, in terms of that question, are you scared of something or someone, or is there something at play here? And it's almost being investigative even as a money advisor, because it's seeing, you've got that evidence there at first hand. It's evidence that you will struggle to get, as you mentioned before, in terms of bank statements. So I think certainly from a good practice point of view from a student money advisor, that's definitely something. And I imagine a lot of people will be screaming at me right now, watching this podcast or listening to it in the car, going, "Yeah, I do that as well. What are you on about? Stop preaching. I do that." And it's like, but some might not necessarily think to do that.
Yeah,
Because certainly when you've got 100 applications on your desk, well, not
absolutely.
necessarily on your desk, in a
Yeah,
system,
yeah.
it's 2025. But you might people might be getting through that quite quickly and might miss that sometimes.
Yeah,
So I think it's important to take that care and attention, because most often, with bank statements, it does tell a story. Um,
absolutely.
and it's quite fascinating sometimes, the story it tells, because you do kind of
Absolutely.
see like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. The other
Um,
one is, money going out the second it's paid in. So, loan sharks will take
yes,
people to the cash point. They will know when people get paid, be it benefits or part-time job, full-time job, whatever else. So, you can see it, it comes in at midnight and it's withdrawn by 3 minutes past midnight
yeah,
in cash, because and then what's happening to that money after. I think, yeah, it is, you're right. It's an investigative thing, and it can be difficult when you've got pressure of time and everything else. But I think fundamentally for us, we've seen it so many times, people will set up solutions for people who are in debt, and they will fail because that person will carry on paying the loan shark. No
yeah,
matter, what you've said about priority debt being your rent or your mortgage or anything else, they'll carry on paying the loan shark because they're scared of the loan shark, and because the loan shark's hammering on their door and sending them 100 text messages a day, which maybe the landlord isn't doing yet. So that will get prioritised. So that's the fundamental thing. I think, none of us want to set people up to fail, do we? And it's about realising that actually this isn't a situation that's going to go away by itself, and that maybe this person does need some help.
absolutely. What options are there out there for students, or if we as staff may recognise that, obviously you mentioned about obviously getting in touch with yourselves and things like that, but is that definitely something, even if we don't have the student's permission, for example, is that something that if we see a legitimate concern, we will get in touch with yourselves and go, right, we've seen this,
Yeah,
and then you
absolutely. So
investigate it?
if the student won't let you tell us who they are, then we can't do anything about that. But there is nothing
Right.
stopping you telling us who the lender is, because the lender is not your client. And the lender, in terms of GDPR, it's criminal exemption. If you think there's criminal behaviour going on, then you are absolutely entitled to tell us who the lender is. If that's not possible, if the person doesn't know, if they've told you his name's Sam and that's it, so there's no way of identifying the individual. Bank statements, bank details are always good, but also it's still worth getting in touch with us. So we've got a team of officers whose job is awareness raising, and they will go where intelligence takes them. So if we think there is a problem at a particular university campus, we'll turn up. We'll flood the place with leaflets. We'll, do Facebook paid ads to target the students. We'll put stuff in the union. We've got beer mats, we've got wristbands, we've got all sorts of things, and we'll just become very visible in one place if we think there's a particular issue. So even if you've got nothing really to tell us, because you can't tell us who the victim is because they won't let you, and you can't tell us who the lender is because all you've got is Sam, it's still worth saying, they met them at the students' union. That's still a valid piece of information for us, because we'll go and chat to security, and we'll go and chat to the bar staff, and we'll just say, if you've ever seen anything going on, give us a ring, and you can tell people to call us and things like that. And it just helps us. There's 20 of us doing awareness raising across England. Our resource is best placed where we know there is an issue. So it's still worth having that conversation.
I think it's important to note as well on that as well, leading on in terms of the training that you offer as well, because I know certainly something from Salford's point of view we're looking at as well, in terms of bringing you guys in to do some training and awareness. But I'm right in saying it's free, isn't it?
Certainly is, absolutely 100% free. We will do online, we'll do face to face. We prefer face to face because we tend to get better interaction with people. But if online's what you need, we'll do online as well. And yeah, it's about an hour, so we say 45 minutes plus questions as a standard one. And we will come and talk to anybody really who's sort of front facing with the public, because it can impact in different ways. And it will look at things like, what is a loan shark? What's the legal definition of a loan shark? When does a friend become a loan shark? What's the tipping point there? Victims, how to engage with them, things to ask, questions, and so on. What to look for in bank statements. So it's quite practical training, as well as some of the horror stories that we've had from across the years. It always gets well received. We always get brilliant feedback from it, and like we say, it's totally free of charge. We like a cup of tea. That's about all we ask.
And can someone dress up as Sid the Loan Shark? Because that would just
If
be
they really want
brilliant.
to.
And yeah, I'd love to see Sid the Loan Shark neck a cup of
We
tea.
also have Glenn to the lender.
Glenn to
In
the
the name of
lender.
equality, she has a pink handbag.
Oh wow.
So yes, there is an alternative. We haven't got as many glanders, but we have Sid the Shark and we have Glenda the Lander.
That's so cool. So
Sharky
Glenda the
McSharkface must be coming, mustn't it, at some point?
Sharky McShark face.
That's
I
what we
love
need
that.
next.
That's a competition we could run at National Student Money Week. Rename Sid the Shark. What would you say? Sharky
Absolutely.
McShark
Yeah.
face. Love
Yes.
that. Thank you so much. That's absolutely brilliant. And really pleased to have that discussion with you just in relation to stop loan sharks. And I think it's important. I'm going to put the number on screen there. A 24/7 service. The number to call is 0300 555 2222. There is also live chat Monday, Friday, 9 till 5. I'm led to
There is.
believe.
And WhatsApp launching in February.
Oh, there you go. That's an exclusive. I'll have that. And yeah, it's just important that certainly what I was saying before in terms of us as student money advisors and just anybody that's listening or watching to this, you don't necessarily have to be a student money advisor, but if you are a victim or know someone who's been a victim or even know of a loan shark, it's important to get people onto that, the right people, and that's something that Stop Loan Sharks will do. So Cath, thank you so much for your time. That's been brilliant.
Fabulous.
Thank you.